I have been really behind on my Rippaverse coverage and the books that I bought. Few months ago, I bought a few books that it's been taking me a while to get to just because I've been doing so much, reading a bunch of things. But I got to the Great War of Separation, issue number 2. And I'll start out by saying Jack Herbert's art in this one is better than the first one. There's a lot of improvement going on in the Rippaverse with each book, even from the veterans. I'll say Chuck Dixon, the writing in this book is probably some of his best to date in a Rippaverse book. All of his stuff has been good, in my humble opinion. But you can tell where he's maturing, not in the sense that Chuck Dixon needs to add anything to his writing repertoire. The dude can definitely craft a story. But you can tell where he is maturing in the sense that he knows what direction he wants to take the Rippaverse in with his storytelling, and it's being honed and it's being sharpened, and the stories are getting better and better. And the Great War of Separation 2 opens up like a sequel to a movie that jumps right into the action. The United States sends some except commandos into Texas to bring Texas back into the fold, right? To flex some muscle. The U.S. has way more excepts. There's a few excepts in Texas, but not many at this time. So they're thinking we have the upper hand. Does not go how they think it's going to go. By the way, little spoilers in here. I'm assuming everyone has read this book already, so it's not a deep dive walkthrough, but just giving some details and why I enjoyed this book. So you jump right into the action. You see some soldiers engage with these excepts and realize, oh, these are not regular commandos we're dealing with. Eventually, one of them gets into the office of the governor, and this except, I can't remember his name, he has something akin to plasma beams out of his eye, sort of like Cyclops. Well, the governor ends up shooting him in the eye, just being a good shot, gets a drink after that like nothing ever happened. If you've ever lived in Texas, I lived in Texas for a year. I have a lot of friends still in Texas. That is classic Texas pride. It works. Like Chuck Dixon is not even a Texan, but he understands this. You can tell Chuck Dixon is like a Renaissance man. He understands so many subjects that when he does write, the story that he crafts almost seems like he was a part of this thing. Like you would think he was from Texas, but as far as I know, Chuck Dixon is not from Texas. But it started out really good, got right to the action. You learn a little bit more about Bryan Solari. You learn that there was a group, I can't remember the name of this group. I did my first read through. They isolated the dormant gene within a person's DNA. It's like the marker for an except, and put them through some treatment that's similar to gamma radiation that brings out that gene, activates that gene. And Bryan Solari volunteered himself first before volunteering any of his team. They said it was going to be painful, so he was like, all right, well, count me in. If I expect my team to do it, I'm going to do it first. And this is how he gets his powers. You get to see Bryan Solari is a lot stronger than I knew. And I have a theory. I don't know if this is going to happen. This is my theory. I think the U.S. at some point is going to have the upper hand in this war. Yaira having some of her offspring or the descendants of her offspring that are in Texas is going to come to the aid of Texas because of that. And she's going to be the difference maker. Now, again, I don't know how things are going to play out with her and Bryan Solari. She's probably going to do something akin to a war crime. And of course, Solari's a man by the book. by the book in the sense that he's not just going to do something off the cuff, commit a war crime, kill people and things like that. I think Yaira is going to come in and just be indiscriminately laying waste to everyone. And that's going to start the love-hate relationship between her and Bryan Solari. I think personally that's what's going to happen. And as I was reading this, I was like, okay, I see this coming. Seeing the way this plays out between the US and Texas, it's so crazy because it's super believable. Of course, to read and enjoy comic books, to some degree, you have to suspend belief, right? Superpowered beings shooting plasma beams, I couldn't get the word out, and flying around in the sky. I mean, come on, it's not happening. It's just straight unbelievable. So you do have to suspend belief to some degree, but the way this is written, I can see like this is something that could actually happen the way this breaks down. You see the US using some of their criminals who happen to be excepts in lockup for their next foray. The first batch they sent in, they were handled. So they're like, okay, we need to go more heavy-handed this time. So they're getting some unsavory characters. They send them to Texas in these mechanized suits. They don't know that there's excepts in these mechanized suits, but they find out. And this is where you see Bryan Solari's team first go into action. And one of them actually dies. I love this about the Rippaverse. I love that this is one of their part of their, the core of who they are. If somebody dies, they're gone. They're not coming back. I like that because if somebody's in a duel and you think they could possibly die, you're really going to be on the edge of your seat because you're like, yo, once this person goes, they're not coming back. This is it. Once they're dead, it's a wrap. It's over. Yo, I like that. I like that. It attaches you to a character in a way that's more, you feel like there's more at stake. And I was like, I really appreciate that. Again, like I said, Jack Herbert's art in this book is for me better than the first one. And I don't know. I meant to look to see if they got the same people to ink the last book, because I think the ink work on this one might be a little better as well. And I don't know if Herbert inks his own work. Anyway, done very well. Done very well. That opening salvo got you right to the action. They waste no time. I'm really enjoying the fact that for a brand new company, all of these stories are interconnected. I like that aspect of these books. There's a lot of new companies that have come about, new comic book companies that make great books. I think they would be even better if they were interconnected. Like Ghost Machine Comics, I believe all of their books are disconnected universes, or like what's going on in Rook Exodus, I don't think has anything to do with Geiger. Those two might be connected. Now that I'm thinking about the story, those two might be connected. But I think like the Rockefellers and what's their other books? They got a few other books. I'm not sure if they're connected. Now, doesn't mean the books are bad. They make excellent books. I've said this before. But there's a special sauce that you have when you have interconnected stories. And I think early on when Marvel started, I think initially they didn't start that way. And I think their books actually started taking off more when the stories became more interconnected. It's just that adds another, it's like adding adding a spice or an aromatic to a dish that brings out flavors you didn't know were there. I think that's what happens when you have interconnected stories like this. Because as I'm reading this, I'm theorizing about other characters and how they can bring these other characters in and the different things they can do. It's special to me. You get to see Avery's mom, Isum's mom, get busy in this book. And you get to see some of the I don't think they're invincible, but man, close. And I'm telling you, Solari, yo, I can't wait to see a battle where Solari goes up against an enemy that's like out to kill and he really has to push his powers to the max. That's going to be enjoyable. Solari is like, I've been trying to figure out like what I could compare his character to. And the way I'm beginning to really enjoy his character, the more it's explored, I'm like, man, I don't know if I've seen a character quite like this. I'm sure I have. I'm sure there's somewhere I have. There's nothing new under the sun. But the way this is done, I like it. I like the fact that this book right here, if I didn't read that first book, I would have questions, but it wouldn't. It's not something that's not manageable. You could read this book without reading The Great War of Separation, issue number 1, and you wouldn't be completely lost. Now, I'm not sure by the time we get to book number 3, you're probably going to have read all of these books to really understand what's going on. But I wanted to show some panels from this book because, again, Jack Herbert's art in this book was done well. There is, let's see, a glimpse. I think this is where Solari first got? No, this is when they were sending the mechs in. Oh, yeah, you know how I love splash panels. I always say that. This is not necessarily a splash panel per se, but it's like I'll call it a mini splash panel. And you see Bryan Solari and his team roll in. Dope team, by the way. Dope team. I believe I mentioned one of them dies. And this is where they figure out that the people in these mechanized suits are actually excepts. Because they thought, Bryan Solari had the skinny because he'd seen suits like this at DARPA. So he was like, there's people in these suits, just so you know. So they probably thought, well, not probably. They did think they were going to be able to wrap this up, get these people up out of here really quickly. Did not work out that way. And this actually turned into a battle. But what you see is Bryan Solari unleashes, and you're like, oh, this dude ain't no joke. He ain't nothing to be played with. But what you also see in this book, I'm going to try to get to the page where you see Avery's mom getting busy against one of these mechs. And she was taking some bullets like it was a champ. So I'm like, yo, there's some degree of invincibility to Isum. I think as Isum's character matures, we're going to see his powers like magnify, or maybe let's say we're going to see him master his powers in such a way that's going to make him rather formidable. And I cannot wait to see that, because seeing his mom in action in this book right here, like there's one part where she picked up a car and threw it at this mech, but the way they showed it, it was like she did to toss something like that. You're doing this with ease. Like this is not a problem for you at all. And I believe this is the first time that Isum saw his mom in action. Super dope, super dope. Like I said, the art in this book is great. I enjoyed this story. Very well done. I was entertained from the first page to the absolute last page. And when I was done, I wanted more. That's my mark for any book that's good. When I'm done and I want more. And I definitely want to see more of the Great War of Separation, because I feel like I'm more connected to the characters as I read this book. All the other books are great, and I grew an attachment, to what characters I like, which ones I like more. But this book right here is attaching me to the characters in a way that's not only attaching me to them, but the universe itself as it expands and grows. And I just want to see more. This is a dope book, and it was such a great idea going with this being the premise of the universe and coming out with a book like this, giving you a backstory and a lay of the land. What can I say? Excellent read.